F.E.A.R is a first-person shooter slash horror game featuring everyone's favourite mid-2000s horror game antagonists, creepy little girls with powers. Atmosphere. F.E.A.R's atmosphere is one of isolation and apprehension. You're alone in these large industrial and office settings and vulnerable to both the paranormal and military threats. You're on edge waiting for either something to spook you or something to shoot you. The second the gunfire dies down and you're left to walk the dark, empty underground passages of the Dock or Armortech building, it often feels like your mind is playing tricks on you. The music and lack of lighting turn even the most mundane of office buildings into somewhere you don't want to be. The music delves into these eerie electronic drones that wind on, with the rest of the atmosphere coming from the lighting. The lighting in this game is fantastic, with one of the weakest flashlights ever that always seems to go out at just the wrong time. The paranormal set pieces I find often build the most fear, and the player spends the whole game wondering when the next one is coming and from what direction. That's one Harry Mason. Scares. F.E.A.R has some of the best set pieces in any first-person horror game, certain to have the player shooting at shadows and pumping ammunition to things that aren't there, with Alma and Paxton Fettel making ghostly appearances when you least expect it and certain enemies turning invisible and lurking in the shadows. Some of this is executed through jump scares, however very little feels cheap. The game also does a fantastic job of misdirection, often leading the player into expecting something and then delivering nothing. You can't mention this game without talking about the incredible AI programmed into the replica soldiers. Their creepy human traits make the gunfights all the more real feeling when they try to ambush you. However, with the addition of Max Payne-style bullet time, lots of guns and melee combat moves the protagonist Pointman has at his disposal, the gunfights never really feel that much of a threat, but it is incredibly fun, which unfortunately does detract from the horror experience. What the game does do well is balance these moments of fear by pouring on the isolation. That's two Harry Masons. Sound design. I've already complimented the game on its music. Between the electronic drones, the game uses infrasound in certain places with low frequency rumbling to create tension. I love it when this is used in a game. A lot of effort was clearly put into the sound effects, with every bullet casing being audible. However, there are just some occasions where the music and sound effects completely drown out the radio transmissions, but I'm still going to give it the point. That's three Harry Masons. Gore. Littered throughout the isolated buildings, there's always a room plastered with blood, bodies, skeletons after a previous fight, and while some of these are cool, there's a lot of them that just don't do anything or serve any purpose besides be a minor distraction. It's not particularly shocking or relevant. I feel the stuff used in dream sequences was overdone, and the random rooms filled with blood were completely unnecessary. The cutscenes use it pretty well, but overall it could have been done better. That's still three Harry Masons. Story. The story of the Pointman chasing Paxton Fettel, a psychic commander of an army of replica soldiers, through a series of locations, is just describing a very narrow part of this large story of experimentation, corporate abuse, dark research, and an attempt to try and control the paranormal. Whilst I find the little girl with incredible power trope tiring in the horror genre, there's enough variance in this that it's never overdone. There's a lot to pick up on the answering machine messages and intel found on laptops, and it all adds up to this fascinating web of events, making the overall score 4 Harry Masons. The first game in the franchise is a timeless classic, a near-perfect horror experience, whilst also nailing it as a first-person shooter. It's a shame later installments never seem to be able to replicate its success. Again, I'd like to remind you the whole thing is down to my opinion in horror games, and if you don't share this opinion, then that's cool. I get it. I'd like to point out that whilst I did jump at the infamous ladder sequence, I did not scream like a banshee or run away from the computer, and I advise you don't either. There will be more horror reviews in the pipeline, and thanks for watching. And always go check out Bumps in the Middle of the Night. Peace.